So I happen to read this. Mucuna purulens are being used, are being used by Indian Ayurvedic medicine for for thousands of years, and for treating the peoples with mental problem, Parkinson, paralysis, etc. All sorts of neurological disorders, and this particular plant extract, seed extract, have been used. It's not only in India. This is the Japanese encyclopedia. There also there is a mention about this purine, but when compared to ours, and again depending on the place where it grows, the quantity will be different. Levodopa will be different, and this is why you say 3 to 7%. And our soil and our weather is best suited for growing medicinal plants. Just mentioned was Kabasura pudinir, or it is Kabasura churanam. This is a Siddha medicine. This was used very extensively in southern India, especially in Tamil Nadu. Government of Tamil Nadu has distributed to all the people in the form of kashayam hot drink during the peak, during this pandemic period. And there were a lot of claim by the Siddha doctors that they could treat it 100%, and there were no casualty. The title for today's discussion is the scientific validation of traditional herbal medicines. Myself is Professor Shekhar, and I'm working in a specialized department called Department of Bioelectronics and Biosensors at Alagarpa University in Karaikudi. This is one of the unique and very specialized department, and there are only very few around the world, and India is the one in our university. And I've been working here for the past 12 years. Something I've written at the bottom in Tamil that I will come to it later. At the end also I have the same. Okay, so this I just wanted to briefly tell something about my university, which is no, before that, which is located at the extreme south of India. You could see that we are very close to Sri Lanka than the rest of the even Tamil Nadu. As you could see here, this place is Karaikudi. We always refer to our place as the one close to Rameshwaram because we are all very familiar with the Rameshwaram. The university is named after Dr. Alagarpa Chettiar, the gentleman, the philanthropist who has donated all his fortunes for the cost of higher education in this part of India. And he has been responsible for the establishment of the university and also a number of educational institutions, and also a research institute called SICRI in our town. Next door is SICRI's CSIR laboratory, which is also originally sponsored and funded by him with land and lot of money in those days in the early 50s. So it's a state university basically. It's completely state university. It's not a private one. The name is just because to acknowledge and recognize and respect the gentleman who has donated all, both land and money. The university is named after Alagarpa. Otherwise, it's a state university. And the department, I just briefly, it's going to be, you will come across a number of scientific slides. I assure you that it's not going to be, I'm not going to discuss much of science, but I'm going to introduce the concepts, methodology, and also the outcome, which is essential to substantiate my title, that the scientific validation of the traditional medicine. And before going into the detail, I just wanted to briefly introduce my department, biosensors, and then how it is related to the current topic of validation of herbal science. So bioelectronics and biosensors, as I just pointed out, this is a very unique department. And bioelectronics is nothing but the study of electronics, a branch of electronics which deals with the study of electric current, bioelectric current that happens in all living organisms, that particularly in the human being. To be very precise and to be very simple, and every one of us have electricity within us. This is so-called bioelectricity. The existence of such bioelectricity within the living organism was established way back in 1791 by this medical doctor named Luigi Galvani in Italy. And since then, this continues to be one of the very intensively investigated topic. And even in 2013, there are publications in the same explaining how the electric current or bioelectricity plays important role in the formation of the fetus. And with the modern tools, you see what you see here is the camera, the frog bioelectric pattern that was obtained from the fetus of the frog. So this is very important topic, and to some extent, unfortunately, our country did not focus much on this topic, and now it is high time that because most of the modern diagnostic tools in medicine are based on this concept of bioelectricity in the living organism, particularly human being, that we are going to focus. So this is about the bioelectricity, and the other one is the biosensors. Biosensors are, I show it in the biosensors are nothing but the electronic devices or analytical devices which converts biological response into electrical signal. That is the general definition. But I always try to explain this with the sensors, we biosensors that we are having. Every individual is having five senses. We all know: sight, hearing, taste, tongue, skin, and nose. These are the five senses or sensors, biosensors, with which we are connected to the external field. This means environment. This means we acquire all sorts of information from the environment, and the message is passed on to the brain, processed, brain gives command, and we act accordingly. So essentially, these are the biosensors that is being tried to to understand and also to duplicate. That is the very objective or main purpose of starting work in the area of biosensors. The other typical example, commercial biosensors that we give is the glucometer and pregnancy tester. And there are a number of such analytical devices that we use in daily life. But you all might, know one thing, that there are a number of about 20% of the Indian population are projected to be diabetic, and in another few years to come, it is going to be 20%. Already, a large number of people are diabetic, and a number of such sensors are being used as in the form of glucometer at home to get to know or to screen the glucose levels. And to my knowledge, most of them are being imported, including the pregnancy tester from elsewhere. That the country has to focus in this area, because not only a glucometer and pregnancy tester, number of analytical devices are used in the field of diagnostics, medical monitors, and biowarfare and food safety, etc. And biosensors are gaining momentum because of its very selective, rapid, and sensitive detection of the target analyte. See, in the past, maybe 10 years, 20 years back, when you get to know about what the glucose level is, or what the urea level, or cholesterol level, or any kind of such diagnosis is to be done, we need to give, we had to give the sample, blood sample and urine sample, and wait for a few hours to a day to get to know the results. But now, almost most of the diagnoses are instant. You get the results in a few seconds sometimes. So these all because of the development of the biosensors. So I introduced these biosensors because these are the ones that I'm going to employ for the scientific testing and validation of the herbal medicines or traditional medicines. This is reason why I am introducing this in greater detail, and also to emphasize the importance of the modern analytical devices. So not only the point, glucometer and other devices. There are a number of places where the biosensors are playing key role. For example, the study of biomolecules and their interaction, diagnosis both clinical and laboratory, drug development, crime detection, environmental quality control, industrial process detection systems for biological warfare, pharmaceuticals, especially nowadays, implanted and then replacement of organs. And also, biosensors play a key role in the field of agriculture, food quality control, and etc. Such an important field next. So nowadays, the focus is on the point of care devices. The number of devices have come into the market, starting from the sensors which work on, portable sensors which are used. You see the number of sensors that is already being used, right from monitoring the physical health and etc. etc. I'm not going to detail because these are the ones which are already available in the market and many of us have started using it. What I'm going to talk about in the next slide is still, though it looks like a lot has been done in the field of medical diagnosis, and there is nothing that we need to do more. But when we think like that, in reality, there are a number of places where still work has to be done, especially the neurotransmitter detection. Neurotransmitters are nothing but the chemical messengers. As I told you, all the informations or messages are collected from different organs. When you look at this picture, and then the message is taken to the brain, and the brain gives command, and accordingly we work. And so this is why it is called chemical messengers. Neurotransmitters are the chemicals, very small amount of chemicals of the order of microgram, milligram, picogram, etc. It's very, very small, nanogram level chemical. But these small amount of chemicals are responsible for all our actions, both physiological, psychological, emotional, all sorts of actions. And these chemicals, for example, dopamine and acetylcholine, number of them I'm going to tell in. And they are all working very small. For example, this is the, okay, they are very small in quantity. As I just pointed out, they take care of all our actions, starting from concentration, energy, alertness, mood control, cognitive functions, anxiety, attention, appetite, aggression, motivation, pleasure, happiness. This dopamine is nowadays well known as a happy chemical, serotonin, and all these combined together, they control what we are today, both emotionally and physically, physiologically. So chemicals called neurotransmitters have to exist in the right proportion, and as long as they are in the right expected or right quantity, we are fine. But if there is any deviation, as you could see in the previous slide, see, for example, excess, you see bulk dopamine, less of acetylcholine. And if there is excessive dopamine, then what is required, and less of acetylcholine, that leads to the symptoms of disease called schizophrenia, or where the common name is depression, which is again a common problem, especially among the youngsters who are involved in the IT because of the day and night shift, etc. So work pressure, etc. So the reason is, if there is imbalance is also a problem. This is the point I wanted to mention. And here I just wanted to give 1 minute, please. Food is nowadays, no, food is always very important before, previous slide, please. Food is always important, and our mind health is decided by what we eat. So this is why food is called as a factor which influences the mood to a great extent. And nowadays there are a lot of research which correlates the food intake and the mind health. And when a person happen to have a psychotic problem, and the kind of food habit that the individual is undergoing or taking is also taken into account for diagnosis. And so, for any useful diagnosis, Okay. So for any useful diagnosis, we need to know the precise amount of these chemicals. For example, again, nowadays what is being sold in the market, you can come across in the Google and other online platforms and also in the drugstores. So-called happy chemicals are in the name of happiness. The claim is, or the fact is, when you take appropriate amount of these chemicals, neurochemicals or neurotransmitters, dopamine, endorphin, oxytocin, serotonin, and the individual is expected to be happy all the time. So this means these are the chemicals which derives happiness from whatever you do or whatever you take, whatever you acquire or whatever the recognition, reward or all these are decided or taken to the brain and given a feel that you are happy is decided by this chemical. But there is a problem. See, for example, if there is excess, or as I just mentioned, if there is an excess, is also a problem. If there is a less of this chemical, is also a problem. Meaning that the balanced amount should be there. And even in case, for example, serotonin, if you take, this is again a very important neurochemical which influences the personality, especially the happiness of the individual, very much. They work differently with men and women. Same serotonin level, which is when it is poor, and the symptoms are different in men and women, or a kind of problem that the men and women undergo because of the same chemical are different. Men becomes ADHD, and a woman becomes anxiety. Men become alcoholic, women become depressed, and men become anger and rudeness, and this woman become emotional. Likewise, there is a difference between the way these chemicals works in men and women, and again depending on the age, depending on the quantity that is that exists or that is secreted in the brain, the personality is decided, happiness level is decided, our activeness, our memory power, anything that you name out will be decided by these chemicals. So it is very important that these chemicals have to be determined, have to be measured very precisely when you want to understand the mental health or mind health of the individual. That is very important. But in reality, despite having many modern analytical diagnostic tools, it continues to be very difficult to measure the precise quantity. That is because of the complexity in the brain chemistry. So brain chemistry is indeed complex. That is because of the different chemical status of these chemicals. For example, we take this L-tyrosine is an amino acid that we get mostly in the food like cheese, butter, and milk, and again some meats, and through which we get or when we intake L-tyrosine. This is an amino acid. You don't need to worry about it. But once it gets in, with the assistance of one enzyme called tyrosinase hydroxylase, it becomes L-dopa. L-dopa, I have highlighted. This is what I am going to talk about in the case of traditional medicine, where it exists. So it becomes L-dopa. L-dopa is the precursor for the dopamine. Dopamine, we all know, and nowadays that is the a very important influential chemical for the happiness of the individual, or there are not only happiness, there are many other roles the dopamine plays, and the dopamine becomes norepinephrine again with the help of the uh, enzyme, and norepinephrine becomes epinephrine. These are sequence of chemical changes that continuously happens in the human beings, and especially even now when the psychiatric diagnoses are being done based on the symptoms, and because there is no tool or there is no way that we can measure these chemicals precisely. So still there is a big demand for developing for for the development of analytical devices in the form of sensors to get to measure this very precisely. And now, as I just pointed out, because of the non-availability of the devices, symptom-based psychiatrists use even psychologists and family members to get to know how the patient behaves and how the patient acts, and then decide. Mostly it is qualitative, not quantitative. So the point now I just take home message is that we need to know the chemicals presence at any time. So this is a continuous process. And this is the reason why thyrosin becomes dopa, dopa becomes dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine. This is a continuous process. And this is the reason why our moods keep changing. We are happy sometimes, we are normal and angry, and then sad. All this mood swing is governed by the change, by such chemistry change. So even if you happen to measure in the individual these chemicals at a given time, in another 10 minutes you do not know how the individual is going to behave. So this means chemistry must have been changed. And so we need to have a device or maybe which can monitor the continuous changes. And these kind of sensors are now being investigated very intensively as the world is concentrating on the artificial intelligence and also other machine learning, etc. There also sensors are very much required. So our target, based by looking at this literature, we have decided to develop sensors using metal oxide nanoparticles. That is how I get into this field. And so our idea was to develop sensors for every individual, and or simultaneously at one time we want to measure all these chemicals, then only we'll come to know plus minus. So that is how we have started. Okay, we made use of nano oxide nano materials. I'm not going to spend much on how we developed, because this may not be interesting for all. We made use of metal oxide. One of them is tungsten oxide. Okay, this is how the preparation was done. Metal oxide nanoparticles I have highlighted here was prepared and taken here as a electrode material for sensing. So the material, you take the blood, we take the blood and prepare the serum and put it here and in this electrode cell, and then we quickly measure in a minute or so. We quickly measure what are the neurochemicals and what are the neurochemical percent and how much is the quantity, that we'll be able to measure very quickly. That is the advantage of this method. So we have successfully applied and made use of you just remember one word here, L-DOPA, precursor for dopamine. We have made a device to measure L-DOPA at physiological pH of 7.2, nanomole level, very small quantity can be measured and over a wide range. That is the only. And our sensors are very selective, because when you take a plant, herb, and take the extract and you try to find out what are the, especially whether L-DOPA is there or not, and then selectivity is very important. So we made sure that the developed sensor fulfill all the requirements of a good sensor for the specific application. So with this, I went to this is just to highlight our sensor is better than the ones reported in the literature by other groups from around the world. So with this, we went to we have a collaboration with doctors and also neurologists and psychiatrists and also psychologists, because we have some centers affiliated, research center affiliated to our university. And straight away, I just told the doctor, because of my excitement, that we have developed a sensor which can detect levodopa, that doctors could use it to diagnose the patient. And after listening to me, doctor only told doctors, in fact, a group of doctors told, yes, it is good, but it's not enough for real practical applications, because the changes in the neurochemical has to be monitored very continuously. And for that, we need to implant. The small sensor has to be very small. And in many cases where there are brain dead cases, and we have explored all the possibilities for treatment, and then we want to try how the chemistry changes, and then we want to implant the sensor. So they suggested that you can concentrate on a small sensor which is made up of material which are biologically compatible. When it goes to the brain, there should not be any poisonous or toxic effect or corrosion effect when the device is inside. So they suggested that you make a sensor with better sensitivity and which can be implanted in the brain, and then it can be monitored for the changes in the brain chemistry or the changes in the neurochemical level. So that is the lacuna or the problem that we are given or we have been asked to work. For that, quickly I have chosen hydroxyapatite as the material for sensor along with the carbon nanotube. Hydroxyapatite is nothing but a bone material. Our bone is made up of hydroxyapatite. The entire bone, the major percentage, about 70%, is hydroxyapatite bone material that we have prepared in the laboratory in a very small nanoparticle form, and obviously carbon nanotube we add, and both of them are biocompatible. This means when I make a small sensor and when it is put it in the brain, it will not affect anything, but at the same time perform well. So this is about hydroxyapatite. The best example I have given here, hydroxyapatite is the material used for replacement, especially the teeth replacement and also bone replacement. When there is a fracture or if something happens to the bone, then the replacement is artificial bone, we can say, that we have prepared in the laboratory in the form of nanoparticles, very small particles. And similarly, we have prepared carbon nanotubes, as you could see here in the laboratory. These materials have been working for quite long. When I was in Anna University, I prepared carbon nanotube for my PhD. So it was easy for me to quickly prepare these materials. And then these nanoparticles have been prepared and the composite have been prepared. And this sensor is nothing but an electrode, and on the top of which coating has been done. And this is what we did. And then you can presume that we have made sensors and made the measurement and compared all the sensors which are already available in the market, in the literature, and our sensor happened to be the best one. That is because we were the first one to make the sensor with the biological material. The other interesting aspect, the sensor can be used at physiological pH. pH is nothing but the pH, biological pH of the human being is about 7.2, and if the sensor can work at this 7 neutral pH, then we can use it directly for the measurement. But unlike other people, our sensor happened to be the best and published a paper. And then, of course, again we went to the doctor, and the work, is progressing, and there were some other changes and array of sensor for dopamine, serotonin, endorphin, all this work is going on. Now, I'm taking you to the today's topic, that is the scientific validation of herbal medicine. That is how I happen to read this particular velvet seed plant. The botanical name is Mucuna puririn. Mucuna puririn. Otherwise, in our country, it is in our place, it's Ponekali in Tamil. It's generally called as velvet seed plant because the seeds are beautiful velvet color. And the L-Dopa, as I introduced, is the brand name or the chemical that is used to treat the people with the Parkinson and other mind health issues. Okay, and it is routinely being prescribed by the doctors. The brand name itself is different, but the basic chemical is L-Dopa, levodopa. It's L-Dopa. So I happen to read this. Mucuna puririns are being used by Indian Ayurvedic medicine for for thousands of years, and for treating the peoples with mental problem, Parkinson, paralysis, etc. All sorts of neurological disorders, and have been, I mean, this particular plant extract, seed extract have been used. This is what I read. Then the logical questioning is this should contain L-DOPA. The simple question, I mean, the conclusion, logical conclusion is the seed should contain levodopa in a reasonably good number, I mean, good amount. Then only this can be used as a, as a medicine, herbal medicine or Ayurvedic medicine to treat the neurological disorder. That was the, you know, again, the conclusion that then we thought of testing it. And while reading it, I also come across a number of important, findings or important papers related to that. For example, some people have reported or this could contain levodopa 4 to 7%. But again, remember, we developed a sensor which are very simple and which can give result within few minutes, and also very precise nanogram level can be obtained, and that can be previously that can be used directly, or it's a very small device, it can be taken to the field. But what other people have been done, or what is the conventional technology is HPLC, high performance liquid chromatography, mass spectroscopy. These are very cumbersome technique. It takes almost several hours, and it's very expensive, laborious, and it needs chemicals, and accuracy cannot be as good as what we get with the sensor. So earlier, with the kind of conventional technology, people have reported that this plant seed may contain 4 to 7% of levodopa, and apart from that, it also had some kind of hallucinogenic tryptamines. These are also kind of psychiatric, problem, and the chemicals which are responsible for. And also, it has phenols, tannins, and later we realized that this modern medicine, L-DOPA, is derived from velvet beans. I mean, this plant seed. That was the thing that we realized, and another thing, when you look at or when you read this carefully, I've seen, because it is there in my place on the roadside and unnoticed, and people nowadays do not use it much, and not understanding the importance of this. We could see it on the roadside also, these plants. And another thing I just correlate with biosensor, this plant is nematicidic. This means the insects cannot go and sit on that or eat this. So this is very free, like unlike our spinach and other vegetables, other plants which are hurt or which are destroyed by insects, variety of insects, then it's called these people, because of the toxic nature of this plant, and these insects do not eat it, do not bite it. So what I infer from this, these insects, very tiny, have a good sensor to detect or to understand that the certain plants only can be edible and some of them cannot be eaten, and they make use of their biosensors and understand. This happens even to the plant. You never see a plant, a goat, an animal, a goat or a cow or any animal which is even in the forest, eat some plant which are toxic and die. Whereas the human beings, sometimes there are reports, and they have eaten some food, they have become poisonous, and they are even killed, toxic plants. And so this is an indication that the biosensors in the plant, biosensors in the animals and other small organisms work well, and that they are naturally safe, and they stay away from the toxic environment or dangerous environment. And this, on the other hand, this is allelopathic activity is also reported. This means this plant destroy other plants close by, and they maintain, or they survive. And so these kind of small things, but there is a lot of message from these plants. Here and there are reports. This is what I mentioned. And if you can Google and find out that this plant, Mucuna purulin or velvet plant, has been practiced in India, traditional medicine that has practiced in India since Vedic times. And it is a wonder for me that how our ancestors, old people, knew that particular plant is of significance, especially as certain chemicals which can cure mind problem or neurological problems. That is really a wonder, and this is a very established medicine. It's not just you know recently investigated, but for centuries or even longer, this has been a medicine which has been used by Indians. We can be proud of it. And again, I come to that later. This has other problem. I mean, other chemicals. And one more thing that I happen to read, this also has some kind of small amount of serotonin. Serotonin, I told you before, this is why generally for treating the mental health problem, this was used. And this also has anti-venom capability. This means when there is a scorpion sting or other small insect bitings, and then when it is applied as a paste, it cures. Likewise, it has other antibacterial, microbial, antioxidant. It's a rich of medicines, different medicines, and predominantly containing levodopa. Okay, so we did it. No, this is the reason why I introduced the development of the sensor for levodopa. We have developed a number of electrodes, and we have tested the seed and also leaves. In Ayurvedic medicine, especially Siddha medicine in our place, so in a plant, when you have a medicinal plant, for sometimes we make use of the root, and sometimes we make use of the only the stem, or in some cases flowers, or in some cases seed. Now, I used to always have a question. If I kind of, out of curiosity, I used to think, if this plant is good for treating some disease, why can't you take any part, any portion, maybe a plant, or maybe a leaf, or flower, or a seed? Why can't you take just like that? But our people were so careful in choosing different parts of the plant for different problems or depending on the case. So this was evident from the fact that the low levodopa or L-dopa quantity was different in the seed when compared to the other portion of the plant, like other parts of the plant. Like we have tested seed and leaves, and seed obviously contained different quantity, and leaves contain different. See, for example, you take 5 grams of this with 5 gram of this, and you check. Our sensor we can calculate not only the qualitative detection, but also quantitative determination is also possible. Precisely, we can tell how much is the quantity present in a given amount. So while comparing that, we have realized that the quantity that is present in leaf and seed are different, and this is an evident, or this is the factor probably, or this is the factor due to which different parts of the plants, herbal plants, are used to for treating different problems. This is again a very amazing, and you have large number of plants, as was introduced by Ms. Tanya, that India is blessed to, especially our place. We are very close to the equatorial line. So, Western Ghats and large variety of plants are growing almost all through the year. We have plants, and many of them have potential medicine values that we need to pay attention, look at it scientifically, and tell to the world that yes, ours is scientifically proved, and in that way we'll be able to popularize our medicine. This is the one of the objective that why I've chosen this topic. So this is not only I happen to read. It's not only in India. This is the Japanese encyclopedia There also there is a mention about this purine, but when compared to ours, and again, depending on the place where it grows, the quantity will be different, levodopa will be different, and this is why you say 3 to 7%. And our soil and our weather is best suited for growing medicinal plants. And this is the other thing that I have briefly mentioned, that the plant seeds contain trace amounts of serotonin, nicotine, and bufotenin. And all these are neurochemicals. You know this nicotine is also an important neurochemical, and the other hallucinogenic tryptamines like this, and all these chemicals. So this is the reason why. And again, one more thing I wanted to tell you, that we don't give always. Sometimes we prepare kashayam, extract, and sometimes it is directly given. And then I was just wondering why, what makes the difference? Why you want to go for kashayam? And here you see the underlined line, up to 85% of the levodopa can be extracted from a velvet seed plant by boiling and soaking for approximately 48 hours. I happen to nowadays I read some of the Siddha and Ayurvedic books, and for every kashayam, for every medicine, there is a description of how to prepare, and they say 48 hours, 30 hours, 36 hours, and you take one jar of water and you eat it until it reaches one fourth or one third, and all this. And how much of effort that would have gone into optimizing such precise way of preparing this. And this is the interesting point. This is what is happening in the modern medicine, allopathic medicine. They take the seeds and do this extraction for quite a long, and prepare 90% of the levodopa or 98% of the levodopa, and it is being sold to us in the form of tablets. So again, this is the point I want to. The efficiency of the process can be slightly improved by using, of course, again, when you want to increase this 88 to 90%, 99%, some sodium bicarbonate need to be added. These are the recent findings. So we can be really proud that this plant is highly magic, and we knew the importance of this for thousands of years, and that is being used. The other thing I just mentioned was Kabasura Kudineer, or it is Kabasura Churanam. This is a Siddha medicine. This was used very extensively in southern India, especially in Tamil Nadu. Government of Tamil Nadu has distributed to all the people in the form of kashayam hot drink during the peak. During this pandemic period, and there were a lot of claim by the Siddha doctors that they could treat it 100%, and there were no casualty. The people who undertook, we took Kapasara Kudineer. So next, I think I want to avoid this. Next slide, please. So these statistics I made me to do some research on this. When compared to the rest of the world, this is today morning I have collected. Now, as of now, this is the statistics. So many, crores of people, confirmed cases, death cases, 6 crore, 221 lakh, and 910 deaths. And when you compare to the international average and also country-specific average, our number of death percentage casualty is very small, and percentage of recovery is very high when compared to any other country. This is the only message I wanted to highlight by presenting this table. This we have also witnessed at one point of time. It was really indeed very severe, and then now we are very comfortable, and we were comfortable. So the reason, when you look at the literature, including WHO site in the peak days, the reasons attributed for the higher recovery rate and lesser, casualty in India were like this. There are more young people in our country with the median average of 28.4. So that is the reason why the death, casualty was less. And another thing I mean, I'm not telling these are the things that I read and it's still available. Statistics are not reliable. They say it may not be reliable. And another important thing which hurt and many of us, Indians have high immunity because they are not clean. So hygienic is not good here. So obviously the immunity is high. That is what they said. But still, this is the real fact would be our traditional food, traditional medicine, including Siddha, which play a major role in boosting immunity against corona infections. This is the fact that in order to confirm, in order to prove these empirical facts, our traditional natural medicine must be tested using modern technology and they must be scientifically validated. See, for example, even if you have not taken this Kabasara Pudinir, which I am going to talk about, the Siddha medicine, which is made up of 15 herbs, the few of them we are using on a daily basis in our food in South India, in the rest of India too. So, Kabasara Kudinir, this is Kabasura Churanam. This is basically Kaba means this breathing related, and the one which heals Kaba, cold, is called Kabasura Churanam. The extract from the Churanam is Kudinir. So, the point is, it is made up of 15 different ingredients, herbs. Here I have given the list, on the other side, you see the images, and all of them have been are mixed in the equal proportions. For example, 1 gram each. All the 50, when you mix, you get 15 grams. And the point which I highlighted here, say in all cases we take different. In some cases, you can see at the middle of the table, different parts are used. Rhizome, this, and then fruit, root, leaves, again stem, root, tuber, root. So this is what I just mentioned earlier, that we don't take all parts of the plant, we take specific parts of the plant. And these 15, starting from Chukku, Tipili, and this Chukku, Tipili, Krambu, some of them are used in our food items, as a garam masala, you call, in many of them, or some of them are, we are using it on a routine basis in the form of food we take, intake. Now, after looking at that, I just started. We have a group, and it's just out of curiosity, there are questions. Like, what is the science of Pudinir? How does it really? How does it work? If it is going to improve the immunity, and if it is going to cure the corona and other. In fact, in the original text, it was not written as a medicine for corona, viral infection. The claim in the original text is that it can cure or it can work out against virus and viral infection. That was the original claim, and now that they have applied it to the coronavirus. So now the immediate question, as I just pointed out, why you want to have 15 herbs? And what are the chemicals present in the herbs, particularly after it becomes an extract in the form of decoction? What are the chemicals present? And what are the proportion of these chemicals? You are taking equal proportion, 1 gram each. Are you ending up with the equal proportional more? No. What are the proportion of these chemicals? And one more important aspect is this Kabasara Pudinir is served hot. Like many other traditional Ayurvedic medicines, you are advised to keep it in the refrigerator in room temperature or colder temperature. But this particular Kabasara Pudin is served hot. The question is why? What happens when you cool it to the room temperature? So how to determine the frequency? How often? There were a lot of saying like advice or a prescription, like you take twice a day, thrice a day, you take 1 cup kashaya, 2 cup kashaya, and all these. And the kids can be taken, given or not, and pregnant woman can be given or not. All this, there were kind of ambiguity, you know, in the way it was prescribed. And how does it work, and what are the after effects, side effects, and if it is really good, then why it is not sold outside India? And even within India, it is not becoming so popular. I'll make it fast. Okay. So this is what we did. We have taken Kabasura Churanam. This is you see on the top, and it was heated at different temperature in order to see the heating effect. And we have prepared decoction, and then in the parallelly we have prepared a number of new sensors and directly tested it. So that is what we did, and to find out the major chemicals to begin with, major phytocompound that is present. We have used electrochemical sensor and also spectroscopic method for qualitative checking. Next. So this is the first study we did. We have taken the decoction, hot decoction. We did, this spectroscopic study, UV visible spectroscopy, very simple. And the information that we have derived is there is a peak, there is one peak at 271 nanometer, which correspond to the ascorbic acid or nothing but the vitamin C. So this is an indication that there could be vitamin C in large quantity. And again, vitamin C is ascorbic acid. This is not a simple chemical as we think. It is really complicated chemical, and it also varies with the temperature and other aspect. So this is another experiment we did with the chemical. So this is the Capasurocoodinir, and this is the chemical ascorbic acid in the laboratory. Both of them are matching very well. So we have come to the conclusion that the Capasurocoodinir is having ascorbic acid or nothing but vitamin C. And eugenol also people call it, eugenol is also present. So our simple, detailed, review of the literature indicated that yes, there is a possibility for ascorbic acid present, vitamin C, and eugenol is there. It is also possible. Thymol is possible from Siragam or Chwain, and gingerol from ginger. We use Chuku. Chuku is nothing but the dried form of ginger. So all these chemicals are expected to be present based on the literature. And the one difference is that we have prepared the extract using water, because we are taking medicine in the form of water. But many of the characterization are conventional, study with this independent plant. There are herbs were done by using methanol or ethanol extract. So, but we wanted to be very practical. So as it is served in the form of decoction, we have taken and did all this. Okay, so this is the experimental procedure which I already explained. It's not very important. Now we know that we have developed a new sensor for investigating, new series of sensor for investigating the Capasurocoodinir. This is the only next message. This is the only message. Next slide, please. So we did a series of studies. We could estimate the quantity of ascorbic acid in a given amount of liquid, Capasurocoodinir, and that varies from micromole to millimole. Right? You see, there is a possibility depending on how much you drink, there can be a small and high concentration. So we need to develop a small sensor which can detect the whole range. See, for example, glucometer, if he is a normal person, 80 to 120. For diabetic 1, diabetic 2, it varies up to 300, 400 like that. And also the low sugar patient, it goes down to 80. So this means the sensor or glucometer is able to detect the entire range. In the same way, we have developed a sensor which can detect the whole range which is present. With this, we could calculate this the calibration graph, and we can calculate and come to know how much ascorbic acid is there, how much eugenol is there, etc. So the detection limit is nanomole level. Very, very, very small level also we can determine. And these sensors are very rugged, and we can use it number of times, and also it is very selective and can be repeatedly used. This means we have developed a device which can be made like a glucometer. You'd say you pay 10 to 20 rupees for measuring the glucose. But when you go for conventional way of testing, you pay 100 rupees, 200 rupees, etc. And the same way, our sensor can be used at a very low cost and quick results can be obtained. Similarly, we have developed another sensor based on iron oxide. This may, again, one sensor cannot give all because we are using 15 different, herbs. So we wanted to develop more and more of them. Here, another sensor with the iron oxide can tell how much gingerol, how much thymol is there. Ginger and ajwain, this is just to ensure that the measurements are perfect, are reliable, and reproducible. You see, the another advantage that I wanted to tell you, this one sensor can determine both gingerol and thymol. So this means you don't need one sensor. See, if there is only one, if you take chukku only and want to know how much gingerol is there, we can use this. And you, in some cases, you take chukku and ajwain, and then you mix them, and there, what is the quantity percent? That also we can detect. This is what I mean simultaneous. This means in using one sensor, we can get more, and even we have developed 2, 3, and the work goes like this. You develop 5, 6 sensors and get to know major chemicals. I mean, if I say only 4, 5 chemical, it is not the only chemicals present. We have done mass spectroscopic analysis and found that there are about 200 different chemicals present, but all of them are very, very small, and some of them do not have any medicinal value, do not have any impact on the human health also. So we are concentrating on the major chemicals, major phytochemicals present on that. So this is for Kabasara Kudineer. We did this experiment. You see, from 500 50 microliter to 400, it keeps on increasing. So this means when you take 10 ml, you take certain amount of gingerol, thymol, and see why one can ask a question. This thymol, eugenol, ascorbic acid, and all these are edible, eatable. And what is wrong if you take little more? So that you can ask. But there are even particularly eugenol, if it happens to be excessive, then the WHO recommended level, it is going to harm the liver and kidney. So any chemical for that matter, especially these chemicals, even if it happens to be edible. In Tamil we say, alavukku meerinal amildhamam nanju. Even if it happen to be, very special food, amildham, if it exceeds the limit, it's going to be a poison, nanju. So we need to know how much we take. So that is the reason why I emphasize that precise measurement of these chemicals are very important. So we did it. So this is the message from here. So now this question I just wanted to address. Why we wanted to drink hot? And in every corner of the street during the peak Corona days, people kept this in the hot pot. I mean, especially in the drums, hot drums, and it was served very hot in the stainless steel tumblers. And that is the question, very tricky question I asked. So what we did is we have prepared very hot, 100 degree nearly boiling temperature, and then we have started making measurement both spectroscopic and also electrochemical sensor measurement every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes. Every 15 minutes, once we kept on measuring this. And as you can see, within first 45 minutes or so, there is a lot of change in the chemistry. And here it can be seen in the first 30 minutes, you see this peak has come down, and here also it has come down. So this means within first 30 minutes, a lot of chemical changes takes place, and it comes to another chemical state. Simply, I used to explain in the form of ascorbic acid reacting with metal ions, becoming ascorbate. What metal ions is potential is zinc. Zinc is very highly, the probable trace element present in the Kabasara Kudineer. Zinc ion react with the ascorbic acid. When it is really cold, it becomes a reaction is completed, and you get ascorbate. This means once you drink hot, you get the desired effect. It goes acid. Or if it becomes cold, then you drink. It is a different chemical. It may not give you the desired effect, medicinal effect. So this is the reason why, why this was served in a very odd. This is very, very interesting finding, and nobody else have done this so far because other techniques cannot be used for doing experiments so rapidly, and we did it. And this was work is published in a good journal called Food Chemistry, and many of them are published, but this is recently published in a Food Chemistry with a good impact factor, very high impact factor. So we have demonstrated very nicely, scientifically, that indeed Kapasara has effect when it is served hot. But now again the question and my wonder is how our ancestors, Siddhars, or for that matter, the one who proposed to drink this hot, how he or she realized in those days the chemical changes that takes place so rapidly and it is served hot, and that is a wonder, and we need to really be proud that our people were so fine, you know, in the knowledge with the knowledge of these fine chemicals in those days, and we need to appreciate and we need to follow it. Next slide. So again, but the problem nowadays is Siddha medicine. Tamil Nadu government has recently proposed in the last assembly that there is going to be a separate university for Siddha medicine. For traditional medicine, there is going to be a separate university will be established, and they will be working on. I'm going to finish it soon. There's going to be previous slide, please. It's going to be the problem with this. Yes, there are very, very good aspects and good things about our Ayurvedic medicine, Siddha medicine, homeopathy medicine, and all. The problem nowadays is the adulteration. People really want to make quick money and mix something which is not in the prescribed level and the prescribed form. For example, if it is seed is going to be expensive, they put only leaves or roots. Likewise, there is a lot of adulteration is happening, and we need to know. We need to have a quick method of checking all this Ayurvedic medicine or traditional medicines, and take measures to ensure the quality. And for that, this is possible now. For example, we have purchased 4 different products and did the similar experiment. As you can see, if it happened to be a kind of modern medicine, allopathic medicine, or there should be kind of similarity or same result should be there if the chemistry is same. But unfortunately, we have seen all the 4 of them showing different behaviors, so different results, and one of them found to be really good, and the other thing in this case in the electrochemistry, you can see that in some cases the eigenol is not there or very little is there, and likewise the other chemicals also was not there in the desired or expected quantity. This means very clearly that there is no uniformity in the composition. And again, this is supposed to be a fine powder when it is sold. Some people made it fine powder, and some of them just mixed and then did some small grinding and put it in the raw form. And our solubility will be different. Extraction will not be the same with the different kind of. So these small things, and during the course of preparation, and also quality of the traditional medicine need to be ensured if we want to really make and promote the traditional medicine to the modern day requirement. Next slide. So we continue to work on other sensors for food analysis with the same concept. Next to food quality, especially food adulteration, food contamination, and this is really a serious problem that the country is facing now. Is excessive usage of fertilizers and other pesticides, herbicides, and again the other end preservatives, and all these make us to eat a lot of chemicals which substantially influence the brain function. As I just mentioned in the very beginning, food is our mind. So mind is nothing but the chemicals work. is dominated or controlled by the chemistry. So when you want to maintain the good health of the people, mind health of the people, next we need to pay attention on this aspect. We also work on the sensors for pharmaceutical and other nutrition products. With this, I come to the conclusion, and I wholeheartedly want to thank Sangam for giving me an opportunity to present some of my thoughts, and also my scientific support. And I also would like to thank all my past students and also the present scholars, and also a number of funding agencies which gives money to carry out the project. And with this, I come to the conclusion. And here I read this Tirukkural, which is now very popular. Noi nadi, noi mudal nadi, adu thanikkum, vai nadi, vaippai செயல். So our ancestors were so cautious. The meaning is like, just don't attend to your disease. Not only treat your disease, but also try to find out the root cause of the diseases. That is what it says, Noi Mudal Nadi. You need to understand what are the responsible factors for causing such diseases. That has to be identified and treated for a permanent cure. That's the message. I hope the country will now, it's already a number of groups have started working. Will focus more on this traditional medicine and come out with the acceptable and scientifically acceptable findings. With this, thank you all. And if there are any questions or clarification, I'll be happy to respond.
So Krishna asked that recently it has been in news that WHO and the government of India agreed to establish the WHO Global Center for Research on Traditional Medicines using modern scientific experiments and methodology. Is there any progress about that? Means the doctors or researchers like you are being contacted or informed to collaborate or participate in these activities?
Yes, indeed, it's a good observation. It's not only India, many parts of India, including the developed nations, have been focusing on this. And there is a demand for the expertise and also information from our country also. At the national level, I'm not sure what is happening, but at the Tamil Nadu government level, as I just mentioned, the government of Tamil Nadu proposed to start a new university exclusively for the traditional medicines. It is going to come up soon in Chennai, and their research and development activities will be taken. See, this is an interdisciplinary area. See, I'm not a doctor actually. I'm neither a medical doctor nor a practitioner of Ayurveda medicine. I'm now an analytical chemist, I can say, though my background is from physics and information technology, communication technology, and all this nanotechnology. But what is needed is the input from the interdisciplinary background like what I have. And I'm sure that the government is going to make use of such people and come out with the, more input and more knowledge and new knowledge on the old medicines, old treasure. I used to say it's in fact treasure of India. It's a good observation. I think it will be taken up.
Thank you, Professor Sekar. And we at Sangam Talks are doing our best to put this out there and kind of promote it so that it gets noticed. The next question from Krishna is, biosensors made from the biocompatible mineral hydroxyapatite as you prepared, can we find it directly from other natural sources or food other than human bone, or is it formed within human body from the food we eat?
This is, it's a calcium phosphate. You take calcium and phosphate, and during the formative years, bone is formed naturally. Okay. And so that is why we take a lot of calcium-rich food, and because phosphorus also is there. And it is nothing but hydroxyapatite is nothing but a calcium phosphate. Okay, so there is a calcium mineral and phosphorus mineral, and when the situation is, when the environment is conducive enough, then this is formed. And in the laboratory, this can be prepared, synthetically in the laboratory by mixing calcium and phosphorus in the appropriate ratio, and allowing it to react under at certain pH, and then heating again at a particular temperature. We are able to prepare, and it's not only we, and it is established technology now that it can be prepared in the bulk and also in the nanomaterial form.
Namaste to everyone.
Namaste, sir.
I'm your junior, so the titles suit me. Yes, I was wondering, when it comes to Ayurveda, because I think generally people have a myth or preconception that Ayurvedic medicines, etc., do not have side effects. But as you have already said that, in Ayurvedic, trustees, etc., practitioners who are well versed with it would highlight that, person who is sensitive to this might have this side effects, etc. And I'm surprised the way even pharmacies, etc., are even doctors are giving away, let's say for in my country, Ayurvedic supplements without cautioning you to look up the side effects or do your research properly before taking it. And what's your view about that, sir?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for joining. This should be really hard time for you, because given the time difference is concerned. Thank you for joining the talk. And your observation is true that say there could be side effects, and the question is, were there any side effects or not? The first question is, it could be minimal, because most of them are, say for example, when you look at the Kabasara Pudinare, it is edible. Most of them are food. Body will accept, and those cannot be accepted will be secreted, will be sent out, will be rejected by the organs. That is one thing. But at the same time, I also emphasize that even in the edible ones, when it exceeds certain limit, beyond then, or when it is continuously exposed, then it's dangerous. So this is the reason. Say in the Ayurvedic or traditional medicine, they give, depending on the prescription, like how long we take Churanam, unless one period, 10 days, 15 days, 45 days, like that, depending on the age and those experienced people, and depending on the age, sex, and again the other factors, weight and other factors, medicine has to be the quantity that has to be taken, has to be decided. And if you personally go and take it's a self-medication, then many times, or you go to the under-experienced or people without proper knowledge, and if they happen to prescribe, then there is a problem. So this is the reason why I propagate now, or the entire community now, that we need to know what is there in the Ayurveda medicine, Siddha medicine, like what is there in the allopathy medicine. Then you can be very confident about, yes, these are the chemicals in small quantities, even if it is in small quantities present in it. And then we can confidently prescribe, and we can, and people also can take it very happily. And that has to happen. But so far, especially with the people who have a rich knowledge or with a good experience, they have been prescribing it the right quantity for the right people. If that is the case, there cannot be any side effect.
So I just wanted to get your personal view on, I don't know if you've read or researched, there's this popular Indian Ayurvedic supplement that's been sold here in Fiji. It's by the Himalaya group, I think, Himalaya brand. And one of the supplements I've tried is ashwagandha from them. And currently I have trying Menta, I think. It's supposed, but the problem is that the bottle does not give you much information, and plus the prints on the what the combination or ingredients are so small, you cannot tell that if you're getting the right amount of this particular ingredient. So I was wondering, what's your view about such brands?
See, the problem, there are two, it's a problem is of twofold. One is that they want to maintain the secrecy of the composition. If they tell what are all the components present in the quantity, then it's not patented like allopathy medicine and not difficult to make. It's easy to you buy or from the ingredients from the market, you mix and then you make your own and you start selling in PG, and then you will not be importing it from India. So that is the reason they want to maintain for they don't want to reveal the actual composition with which the product is made up. That is one thing. The other aspect is also the finite information they are also not aware of. I don't know. Himalaya is a big group, and if they have done enough research and found out what are the compositions present in it and in what this I'm not sure. And for these reasons, it is not this. For me, in my opinion, this has to be disclosed. All the information you have the right to know as the consumer that you are going to eat, and you need to know what you are eating, what you are taking. So this is supposed to be the case, but I don't know how the law works with this particularly. And yeah, I know I've seen this, but this is the point. Not only this, in all the products, and I think things have to change. Patenting, copyright. If the company has the copyright for a particular product and the others cannot sell without no proper approval, and then they have the monopoly. Otherwise, if they tell everything about how it is prepared and what is the now Kavasara Kudineer, every individual household could make because of the urgency. Everything was disclosed, and people sold it's 1:1:1:1 all the 15. Then you mix it and make it at home. Like there are both the side of the issues, and this has to be addressed in future. I think we need to educate both the producer and also the consumer so that all the informations are furnished on every product. That is because you are consuming internally, you are taking, and you need to know what you consume. This is my opinion.
In traditional medicines, we are not much informed about the testing methods to take precautions or to detect any disease in earlier stage, like in allopathy today. Were there any texts in ancient India which talks about the test or checkup methods or these testing methods?
So this is the question to me, right? Okay. I just started reading. I'm really I could answer only based on my guess, and whatever I read so far, there are a lot of information about how it can be prepared, how it should be taken, and all these informations are there. But and of course, there are some people who should not eat, should not take. That is also written. For example, pregnant women should not be provided with that, and kids should not be given. And these informations are there, but otherwise, I'm not an expert to answer this. That will be only based on my guess, and I don't want to do that.
The material again about treatment-resistant depression, for example, I think Triocin might help. Are there any other sort of Ayurvedic remedies that could be possibly explored for resistant depression? For example, if your traditional antidepressants do not work.
To be very precise, I am not aware of the other specific medicine because this is a sensitive issue. Before confirming, I don't want to reveal. But what I now propagate and I speak to especially the youngsters is food habit is changing very rapidly. Okay, food habit, like suddenly I'm not eating what my father and my forefather ate. It's complete. It's mostly very different from, and this genetical changes. I cannot accept the changes so rapidly. Genes cannot accept the changes so rapidly. So as much as possible, for example, simple example I told you, this is why I introduced my research. Tyrosine is the amino acid. So that is present in your meat, especially red meat, and again this is cheese and other milk products. And when you egg also contain tyrosine, and when you take a tyrosine, in the form of food, that acts as a precursor, okay, for deriving number of chemicals. Tyrosine becomes levodopa dopamine, and norepinephrine, it goes on. Likewise, what I propose is that we need to eat mixed. So just because of the availability of the food, or just because we love one particular food dishes, and we continuously eat only those. Unlike in the past, it was not. Arusuvainuvanga. You need to eat all kind of food. It's not only the favorite item. So in that way, your body is provided with a variety of amino acids, a variety of minerals, which act as a precursor for synthesizing a number of chemicals, complex chemicals, which influences the brain chemistry. So I nowadays every meeting I tell, especially the students, that don't go only for the fast food. You eat some of the traditional food, and sometimes you may not like it, but it is important for your body. So see, because of the market-driven economy and TV and so many social media is continuously giving a lot of advertisement on specific foods, and nowadays we are not deciding what we eat, and it is also influenced by other sources. So my recommendation for you, you take nuts specifically, a variety of nuts, and this meat, food also, traditional in the original form. And then that certainly acts as ingredient for strengthening your brain, that you will see. This is a very broad answer, I know, very vague answer, but recent research, as I pointed out at one point of time, and we have collaboration with the UK and also Australian psychiatric doctors. They say before diagnosing the patient, before prescribing, they also ask for the food habit, the kind of food that the individual is eating on a regular basis. That also is taken into account. So this is the only thing that I can say for now.
In Fiji, we have food habits are very similar to what is in India, but there's a marked difference in what we cook with. For example, oil is much more cheaper here compared to ghee and butter or curd, etc. As opposed to India. I think that's one of the factors that is probably contributing to the lifestyle issues, lifestyle diseases in Fiji, probably mental health as well. And probably one of the issues is that, like you said, doctors should first focus on the nutrition and analyze the nutrition of the person, then advise them accordingly. And just one last tidbit: what do you see in the future when it comes to sensors and IoTs and artificial intelligence? You can maybe write a post later on if you don't have the time here right now.
Certainly, it is going to have a strong influence on the health diagnosis, and it will give a direct good feedback and input to the doctors to diagnose and also prescribe. Because IoTs, especially a number of, I'll just finish it within a minute, Ms. Tanya. Number of IoT-based sensors are going to be incorporated in our cell phones, especially VOC, volatile organic, the breath, the exhale breath that I can talk on a different platform. Exhale breath analysis. Every moment you breathe out, it is along with your carbon dioxide, about 1,500 chemicals are coming out. Every moment you breathe out, more than 1,000 established chemicals are coming out from the body. Every moment the individual breathes. So this exhaled breath carries a lot of information about the health status of the individual. For example, lung cancer can be diagnosed at the very early stage by detecting hydrogen cyanide concentration in the exhaled breath. Okay, ammonia excess is an indication for the liver failure, kidney problem, ammonia excess gas. Likewise, acetone can give information about your glucose concentration. You don't need to really prick the blood and take the blood to check your glucose. All these are going to be incorporated in the cell phones, and the future smartphone will be the mobile diagnostic device, which will in turn be connected to the doctor. And then every day morning you wake up and give a breath, and information will go to your doctor, and doctor will call, or alarm will go to the doctor if there is any deviation from the routine, and then the individual will be called for investigation. Such kind of rapid advancement is happening in the area of IoT, especially the diagnosis, and the future will be certainly will have a lot of positives in terms of diagnosis, and obviously which serves as a good for the treatment.